faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock tick faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock tick 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 tick. The clock tick 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 faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock 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 tick faster.
Welcome everybody to the Living Off Borrowed Time podcast. I am your host, Patrique on RYM, Patrick McGovern, master of the worst intros in the game. Joined as always by my co-host, OptimalAudio. This is even by the standards of my shit-ass intros, this is the worst I've ever fucking done. Joined as always by my co-host, Caleb, OptimalAudio on RYM, and our special guest today, ClassTK from RYM, formerly Class the King. I guess he was ashamed of being royalty. I at least remembered the fucking joke I had in my head. This week we're doing one of our rapper discography episodes. Seems relevant because he just dropped what I would say is the best project of his career. I believe we will debate about this over the course of the episode. But it seems like that's a rather unpopular opinion. But what won't be an unpopular opinion is that Freddie, what the fuck is wrong with me today? Freddie Gibbs, Frederick Tipton Gibbs. The problem is I had all these clever ideas for the intro in my head, and then since we're only discussing half of what we're going to discuss, they all got jumbled up right before we went on air. So now I'm just getting nervous as shit. We're discussing Freddie Gibbs this week. We're going to go through his discography, most of his discography. We'll be skipping his early years because they don't seem really relevant to his later work. So we're skipping his first two Full Metal Jacket mixtapes. And we're also skipping the Live from Gary, Indiana series. And I believe there was another one in between them on RYM. We will be getting back to them in the future for a concept episode I just thought of that I think will be a lot of fun. But for the purposes of this episode, we will be starting with The Miseducation of Freddie Gibbs, which is a mixtape that I thought was going to be conscious going into it, but based on the title and the cover art, it's not particularly conscious.
Although it does have the conscious hip-hop tag as a secondary.
It's not.
I feel like nobody listened to the mixtape.
They're like, oh shit, he's going over like the X Factor beat, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it's literally just the Lauryn Hill cover. I mean, I guess he has conscious lines thrown in there, but that's about it.
Yeah, there's no like common style, let me sit down and talk about the plight of the black community track on this album.
No, I don't think Freddie Gibbs was in that mode yet of his career where he would start doing that. Because he would, even his early stuff would sprinkle it in here and there, but it was, this is so early in his career at this point. I mean,
he does have Never Ending Cycle on there, looking at the track list. That's kind of conscious.
It's true.
No, he's always had that aspect to him, but I kind of feel like he came up with the title because it was clever and it would grab attention, but it was not exactly like, I don't know. This is not a conscious album. I feel like
for sure.
Yeah. It's more just what he was about early in his career, which was just riding music, trunk music. And this is probably, not counting the early stuff that we're not talking about right now, the most basic he's ever been, which is still pretty goddamn good. Like,
for sure.
Yeah. It's mostly more flows than content, but he's got hard punchlines on this. I don't think there's a weak song, but aside from the Devin song, I don't think there's necessarily a great song. Never Ending Cycle is good. Wait, does Never Ending Cycle is not on Nodima's? Yeah, it is. Never mind, I missed it. Yeah, Never Ending Cycle. That's a J.R. Rotem beat.
Yeah.
Trash. Like he was really responsible for a lot of disposable trash in that time period. So I'm surprised.
I'm also dumb, and I didn't know that Devin produced the Devin track, which is awesome. I didn't know Devin
produced a lot of his own shit from in like the mid 2000s.
And I've listened to a lot of that shit a lot, and I didn't really know that. So you learn something new every day, I guess, for whatever reason.
Is that the Devin track that's like just a sample though? I'm pretty sure that is all on his own album as well. Like without Gibbs.
Well, the Waiting to Inhale.
Yeah, is it?
I want to say. I want to say.
Oh, it's on Landing Gear.
Yeah. I was looking.
That's when Devin was putting out so much shit that it was hard to keep up with. So I mainly know it from this project.
And I haven't heard Landing Gear, so I was like, wait, I know it's not on Waiting to Inhale. So, yeah, it's the last track on Landing Gear. Yeah. This is a good mixtape. I think Patrick kind of covered it. I don't have that much to say about it because I didn't go back and refresh myself, but listening to everything that came afterwards, I think this is a good tape, undeniably so, but you could kind of tell that he hadn't really found his voice yet, and finding his voice would come quickly in the future.
Right. That was one of the things I noted. I went back and listened to all this stuff starting from here, is that he just doesn't have the energy in his delivery that he would later. I thought Flamboyant actually was the best song. I think that's the song that comes the closest to the flows he would have later. But yeah, I pretty much agree with what you guys are saying.
Yeah, I remember really liking the closer a lot, too.
Honestly, I got into him based upon Nodima's review of the following tape, and so I heard both of these around the same time, and I never really came back to this one too much. I didn't dislike it whatsoever, but I never revisited it all that much. And I didn't revisit it for this project. I meant to, but my job has sapped me physically, emotionally, spiritually. So I slept a lot more than I wanted to. I was supposed to do a lot more homework for this, and this was one of the projects that fell through the cracks. So, but I would recommend, if you are a completist, listening to it, because it's absolutely not bad. And I think it's useful as a starting point, more useful than the really early stuff, because he does sound like himself, but he sounds like himself before he discovered himself as an artist. Before he discovered his voice, as Class would say.
Right. I mean, it's a 7 pretty much, right?
It's the definition of a 7. It's totally listened front to back. It only asks an hour of your time. There are no skips, but there are only 2 or 3 tracks you'd ever really come back to. It's not something you would put on front to back on a regular basis.
Yeah, I definitely agree 100% with what you guys are saying. Good tape, not great, but I wouldn't begrudge anyone like for holding this in high regard, because it's most definitely like anything but bad, like anything Gibbs has put out.
All right, so just for the sake of moving on to a much better tape that everybody should hear, fan or not, I'm going to preemptively apologize, because apparently I have a really bad case of not being able to pronounce shit, and this is especially hard to pronounce. Midwest Gangsta Box Frame Cadillac Music. This does not have a ripoff. This does not have a ripoff of the Outkast cover. Although I guess that was Freddie's thing right now, was taking famous album titles and reappropriating them for himself.
That would be sick if he did a cover of that song.
Well, this is
is
the most southern thing he's done, though, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I listened to it in full twice again yesterday. I mean, I love this tape. One of my favorite, like, it definitely up there in the Freddie catalog. But he, if you listen to this, it really sounds like a mid to late 2000s like southern, like Dirty South album. Like, it really sounds like that in the beats, in his like delivery. There's so many like Pimp C odes on this album. Not even in just I mean, not even in like the obvious like Iodine Poison, but just in general, this album has like a Pimp C feel. It's got a tiny like Goody Mob feel. Not necessarily in like the consciousness, but just I get a little bit of that too. And like UGK, obviously the biggest one that you can hear, but the beats, his delivery, like the hooks, you can really hear it in the hooks a lot, especially those like first few tracks. But this is a fucking awesome mixtape.
He's incredibly melodic on this. That's what I think you mean about the UGK and Pimp influence. His melodies are really important to him on this, at both his flows and the hooks. I think that really comes across on the first 2 tracks. He comes right out the gate just with something that's going to be super catchy that you're going to repeat in your car. And the beats match him on that. The beats are fucking thumping on this shit. Just like super heavy, super bassy. The initial first 3 run on this just grabbed me so hard. I repeated that so much when I first heard this. And again, whenever for homework for this.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally agree with the UGK stuff. And I'm going to bring this up later, but this is kind of what I miss about his early stuff is just how dirty South it was. I mean, now he's basically doing like a lot of boom bap stuff, but yeah, this album, I mean, he literally raps over a Goody Mob beat, doesn't he, at one point on this?
Yeah, he does.
So, I mean, yeah, and I mean, you've got I'm the Man, sounds super Houston with the chopped and screwed chorus. You've got How I Feel, that just sounds like straight up he's trying to sound like Zero, which is not a bad thing. But yeah, there's so many good songs on this album.
That's a good point.
But yeah, more people should try and sound like Zero, although maybe not, because Zero's style is heavily indebted to how much you can pull off charming singing that is not exactly good singing. And that's a very narrow lane.
Yeah, I think he and I think Devin can actually sing, but I think Devin kind of has the same, where there's so much charisma and charm that it doesn't really matter like how exactly he's singing or like what he's singing about. Like it just sounds good still.
Well, Devin's top 10 most charismatic rappers ever.
Yeah, Devin. I mean, you could just throw on any Devin track, and it's so infectious and that sort of thing. I feel like this mixtape, coincidentally, is the same way. Like, Country Bounce, I think, is super dope. Like, listening to it yesterday, the way that Gibbs does the hook, and then he's kind of in the background on the hook, like singing those like little melodies. Like, if you really listen to it, that's cool. I'm the Man. I know Class brought it up. That's like, I think Nodima said something like that about how like when he goes double time, it reminds him of like T.I. That's a good comparison. And I think the run at the end with Iodine Poison, just trying to make it one more time, Higher Learning, Smoke the Pain Away. Like that should not work. It's like a 10.5-minute song and it's fucking awesome. Like,
well, think of that not as its own song, but if you think about like how Dedication 2 ends, where it's like Georgia Bush and then Him Over Ambitions of Verida.
Yeah.
I kind of think of it as like a song and a bonus track. That's maybe because I grew up in the 90s where you'd buy CDs and the CD'd be over, then there'd be a bonus track at the end. That's kind of how I view stuff like that. Like, I don't think it's supposed to be taken as one thing as a whole. So I don't really view it, but I'm not trying to take away from your point. That ending run is incredible. Like, it's super well sequenced. It comes out the gate hard, it ends hard. Like Iodine Poison was my favorite song on here for a very long time because for obvious fucking reasons. Like,
yeah, I mean it's hard to take like you put a title like that, such a classic verse, such a classic song. I mean, you have to show up.
We named the Discord after that verse.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's one of my favorite verses ever. Like, so, and he fucking killed that. Like, and I think what I love about this is just how unapologetically like Southern influence it is. Like, Gibbs has said throughout his career that he's taken huge influence from Pimp C, but I mean, we all said like you can hear it on this, and I think it's his best mixtape, and funny that it is his best mixtape because it came out so long ago comparatively.
Yeah, another thing I want to point out, the Devin the Dude song on here, Freddie does the Superman interpolation a decade before Drake does.
Yeah. I picked that up yesterday. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this isn't Chicago freestyle.
There's no depth Drake won't go to steal from another artist.
Drake stealing from Freddie Gibbs.
He knew Alfredo was going to drop.
Yeah, exactly. Drake was like, you know what? I've got Drake's definitely heard some Freddie Gibbs. Drake's ears are always open to, so depends on how what he wants to pull from a specific artist or scene. But Drake is a huge fucking nerd.
Oh yeah, that's Drake is a. I was actually talking about this with my friend from work the other day. Is that Drake is a giant fucking rap nerd, and that's like one of his most endearing qualities.
Yeah. Like I think he genuinely likes the vast majority of stuff that he tries to do on his albums. It just doesn't always work for him.
Yeah, and the older he gets, the more "How do you do, fellow kid" that's going to come across.
Oh, absolutely. Like, he definitely fucks with like the Brooklyn drill stuff, and those tracks are actually, I think, two really strong ones on his album. But it's funny.
They were better than I ever expected, actually.
Yeah.
I actually really like that project. That's how 2020 is like a miracle music year. This Drake mixtape came out, and I like it. Like,
and it was like it's like a Drake mixtape that a lot of people are like, it's mid, whatever. And Patrick likes the Drake mixtape. Usually it's the other way around.
I skip it because it's Chris Brown and it's boring, but it doesn't make me violently angry. Like, it's a Drake mixtape song with Chris Brown, and I don't want to like hurt people or burn things. So
it was genuinely a surprise when we were in the Discord and Patrick's like, yeah, I think I like this mixtape. And I was like, what kind of world do we live in?
But yeah. Midwest Box Frame Gangsta is just, again, what's weird about this is I remember when this came out, him and Pill were getting the same buzz. And I brought this to Caleb before the show, and I'm wondering, because Ross signed Pill, did not work out too well for him. Never even got an album out on MMG. Did Ross try and sign Gibbs too? And is that partially why Jeezy signed? We're skipping way ahead in the timeline here, because Jeezy will become an important player in this story. But is that why Jeezy signed Gibbs, to attack Ross?
I think it's definitely possible. I don't know a lot about Jeezy's stuff as a label head besides, the later Gibbs problems. But I think that Jeezy and Ross, I don't think they were on each other's shit for a while, so there could have been beef there. Because I don't remember Jeezy being on a Ross album until Mastermind.
Right. It was War Ready, and that was supposed to be a big deal. Like,
right.
And 187 Proof was on what? Because that was the big track where Gibbs
was on Cold Day in Hell.
Cold Day in Hell, right.
Yeah. Well, wasn't Jeezy on the, Hustlin' remix, though? I guess that was way earlier than this.
I mean, that was like, that was like 07, maybe, 06. Like, there's 6 years in between that time. And I mean, we might be bullshitting. Like, you might be right, Class.
I have no idea.
None of us know what the fuck we're talking about here. This was a theory I thought about yesterday when I was about how Pill and Gibbs came up together, and I heard about them both together. And then the next time I heard about Pill was when he signed to MMG, and I thought, oh, Ross is trying to cover all of his regions. And then the next thing I know, 187 Proof drops, and Gibbs is attacking everybody on MMG except for Pill. Well, he didn't really attack Meek. He mentions Meek, but he doesn't attack Meek. So,
I feel like Meek's reputation was all like, I feel like Gibbs didn't have really any ammunition to attack Meek with because their reputations were kind of similar. Like, Meek was a battle rapper, he was a relative unknown, and then out of nowhere he blew up and was like, still kind of embodied the streets of Philadelphia in a sense. I feel like
you'll hear stories about Meek being grimy too. I mean, eventually Meek became like a big galvanizing figure because, well, the Eagles took him up as like the anthem, and eventually when that was a huge thing for the city, like, obviously, and the whole thing with him getting railroaded by the judge, like, everybody stood behind him on that. That was bullshit. But he also screwed over promoters. There were people who took Cassidy's side in that whole beef too. There was an idea that Meek sold out the city for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that because he blew up so quickly, and then he was making a lot of like pop rap albums that weren't necessarily bad, but like anyone could make them. So
like literally in terms of like he's like fucked over promoters. Like, he promised to do shows and he wouldn't. He promised to do shit for charities and he wouldn't. He would just like that type of shit. And yeah, and people thought he was a cat. Like, I don't know. This is not the Meek Mill episode, but
no, it's good. I mean, the Pill theory is interesting. I haven't really listened to a ton of his individual music, so I can't.
Yeah, the one song that was big when this all dropped was "Trap Going Ham," which I remember being an amazing song.
Yeah.
And the video, like, this was 2009, so YouTube wasn't like the monolith it is now. He came out with like a trap music video that was just like pretty much like ugly shit in the trap. Like, think the Pusha Exodus video kind of.
Mhm.
And it was a big deal. It went viral. It was huge on Smoking Section. He had a lot of buzz. I just kind of associated the two with each other for a while. They toured together on Gibbs' first big tour. And then, yeah, after the MMG thing happened, it went south. I have no idea what. Let's find out what he's done since. Let's see what RWAM says.
I'm genuinely curious, actually.
He has not put out a studio album. He had one single in 2010. He had a mixtape, I remember, from 2012. He has not done. He was on the Spring Breakers soundtrack in 2013. Shout out to Harmony Korine.
That's that fucking that's his biggest look.
I'm wondering what song is it? Trap Going Ham? No, it was a feature. I'm guessing. The only time you'll get a James Franco feature on your fucking rap mixtape. It was Big Bang. Oh yeah, that was probably the biggest song he's been on. Was Big Bang. That's where Rick Ross feeds his fish ecstasy.
Yeah. Oh god. He should have been he should have been on the Gucci track, right? Because there were Gucci.
That should have been mostly Gucci songs. So Gucci was the villain in the movie.
Yeah, quite literally.
He actually says "burr" at one point. It's awesome. There is one Gucci song on the track. It's Young Nigerians featuring Waka Flocka, which might have been exclusive, although that's the most generic possible Gucci song title, so I can't place that.
Right. I cannot either.
Does have best Waka songs on there, Fuck This Industry.
It does have Fuck That. That's a great song. And it also has the best cover of a Britney Spears song. With Every Time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great cover.
It has 2, 3, 4 Skrillex songs.
Oh, it was
2013.
2013. 2013. Actually, that many Skrillex songs in 2013? No. Maybe if it was like 11, I would excuse it.
But think about when it was supposed to be filmed and taking place.
True, yeah.
So.
Well, what do they have? They have Wild for the Night on there. I'm guessing. That's a guess.
I will ride for Wild for the Night. I don't know why everybody hates that song.
It's so funny to me. Like a lot of Skrillex songs, I don't hate them now, but I look back on them and I just laugh because of where I remember being in fucking middle school and like how big those songs were. Like, I was like Scary Monsters or whatever when like the bridge is building up and then it's just like, oh my god, and it drops. It's just like, why did people fuck? Like, it's not a bad thing. They're not terrible, but it's just like, how are these songs so huge?
House parties, bro. That's the only time I ever heard Skrillex songs.
I would hear them like through headphones and stuff, but people were really fucking with Skrillex.
No, from like 2009 to 2013, to speak to Harmony Korine's soundtrack, yeah, Skrillex was pretty much everywhere. It was just like he found the sound that people were into, and I heard this shit starting in like 2007 at parties. Yes, to speak to Class's point, it was at parties. I'd started hearing this shit from like more clued in people, I guess, because it was coming from the UK. Obviously, American never has its own ideas.
Yeah. But a lot of the UK stuff was like, it was a little more like nocturnal and like toned down in a sense.
Oh yeah. Well, America doesn't have its own ideas. We steal other people's ideas and we make them louder.
Yeah. No, that's literally what like quote unquote like bro step was. Like that's literally what that was. It's like, let's just make what if dubstep but louder.
Well, dubstep was like 2008 and Skrillex was like 2010. It was like, and somewhere in there, Diplo found a way to be more successful than anybody. Weekly PSA from Living Off Borrowed Time. Fuck you, Diplo. Fuck your goddamn fucking genre humping, trend humping, year late, Old Town Road, dick sucking country album. You asshole.
I might have listened to 10 minutes of that.
Like, seriously, he couldn't even he could have churned that shit out in 15 minutes. He had to wait a year. Like, fuck off.
Diplo, he was waiting a year to try to get 3 Lil Nas X features cleared.
Good on Lil Nas X for not giving him shit. Like, Lil Nas X is like, you get the same thing everybody gets for the Old Town Road remix. The same fucking verse.
Oh my god.
I like to think he would have given Dolly Parton a new verse. That's it. We never did get the Dolly Parton Old Town Road remix, though. But All right.
So
I feel like
the
we've
next,
gotten off topic a little bit.
yeah, I think
we
we
move
got
on
we
to
got the
Straight
two-
Killa No Filla / the Straight Killa EP.
we've
Unless
got
anybody has anything else about Midwest Box Frame.
Yeah, that is next.
I think because the Straight Killa No Filla, it's funny, it only came out a few days before the EP, but Straight Killa No Filla is good, but the joke is it has filler.
Oh yeah, 21 songs, 77 minutes.
Yeah,
And
I don't really ever listen to this since the EP dropped. And the EP has a song that's pretty much better than everything on. With the exception of National Anthem and Rock Bottom, Oil Money is better than anything on the 21 tracks of the mixtape.
Rock Bottom is one of the best early Gibbs songs. Maybe one of the best.
Crushing Feelings, too. Although, is Crushing Feelings on the fucking... is that on the EP? I forget. Because that should have been on the EP if it's not. That's a fucking horrible decision.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not on the EP.
Okay, that's bullshit. Because Crushing Feelings is the second best song on here aside from Rock Bottom.
I think Live by the Game is underrated. I mean, more UGK.
Oh yeah, Live by the Game is awesome. National Anthem Fuck the World actually played right as they were doing the National Anthem when I ran my half marathon. I had my headphones in and I had a playlist of like hype shit to run, and it was timed exactly to what my ideal time should have been for the marathon, plus the 20 minutes of prep or whatever. And as they were doing the National Anthem, that came on. I took that as a sign. That was fucking awesome. Cool story, bro. I know. I don't remember the Pill song on this one.
The only song that I think from tracks 2 down, it's fucking awesome. I don't. The only song that I
Unless you hate Big Kill, and I can understand hating the Big Kill feature. I find it, amusing, but I can understand if you skip that.
No, I don't. I think it's like an okay song. I don't. I like his voice. I like Big Kill's voice. But I don't. I just remember the other songs like grabbing me more. And I listened to this 2 days ago as a refresher, and I remember the BJ song hit me harder than it did the first time, even though it's like pretty low key. Personal OG is a great song.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And the J-Rock song is fun because people were comparing those two when they came out, and Freddie went on to have this career, and J-Rock went on to have that career. So it's
shout out Top Dog, best A&R in the game.
Yeah. Shout out Top Dog for fucking screwing over your artists. Shout out Reason. Anyway.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. But Rock Bottom, I could talk about Rock Bottom for like...
Reason and Logic would have beef.
I mean, he's better than Logic, but not by that much. Rock Bottom is amazing, and it comes after the thing I always like about Rock Bottom is it comes after the song that interpolates One Day.
Oh yeah,
it's cool. Yeah.
Oh no, that's ridiculous. That's a great 1-2. I almost think it should end on Rock Bottom because like obvious reasons, and Bun and Gibbs have such good charisma. I almost think that, I really, like, 4681 Broadway is a good song. Slang and Rocks is a great song. Rock Bottom's a perfect song, and I kind of think it should end there. And if it's not going to end there, and since the EP came out like 2 days later anyway, just put Oil on there. Put the other 2 tracks somewhere else on there. Get rid of Pussy So Amazing. I don't really like that song.
Yeah, that song's not good.
It's an early sign that Gibbs and Lady songs, up until now and Lady Gatas, which I play every time I have sex with my wife. Why wear my yums from Soulja Boy?
Hey, shout out Soulja Boy.
But yeah, seriously, Gibbs and Lady songs are very, unless he's making story songs about women, which he's actually really good at, and we'll get to that later. Obvious choice from Ben Pinata on there, but Pussy So Amazing is just not. It's not good. You could move 4681 Broadway up there and that lose nothing. Slang and Rocks is a really, really good song, but it's not as emphatic of a closer as Rock Bottom would have been, or Oil Money. Like, Oil Money literally ends with Bun B saying it's over. He's talking about a blowjob, but still.
Oil Money, is that the best Dan Auerbach like chorus thing ever?
Including Black Keys, by the way. We're including Black Keys in that statement.
Oh yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm not I'm like Black Keys are like they're all right. I'm not a Black Keys guy.
I like the one Danger Mouse did with them, actually. It's one of those times Danger Mouse works for rock production, but
Oh,
yeah.
I like some of their I like some songs on their early albums like Rubber Factory, but I don't. And I mean, I really when I was younger used to love some of their like early like Thick Freakness stuff like that. But I don't know. I kind of like don't really fuck with it anymore. And the newer stuff was like, yeah.
I Will Ride for Black Rock. I think that album is so gimmicky, but it works really well. And I assure you, no one got paid for working on it because Damon Dash put that together.
It would have been only worse if Birdman did it.
I assure you, somehow Birdman got paid off that album.
Class, do you have any? Which one do you prefer, the EP or the album?
Honestly, probably the album. I just feel like there are a lot of good songs on the album that are on the EP. I mean, like, yes, the beats aren't that good, but this may be my first hot take, but I think the rapping is that on Straight Killer, the album is better than Box Frame.
Really?
Yeah.
I would disagree. I disagree.
I mean, I think he is just like going so hard on this album. I mean, listen to National Anthem when the beat switches mid bar and he literally just switches his flow mid bar like perfectly. I mean, most beat switches they cut in like with their new verse, and Gibbs just like keeps going. I mean, there are so many like fire verses on this album. I was like, thought it was way better than I remembered it being when I listened to it earlier this week.
I can see where you're coming from. The problem with your argument is that Midwest Box Frame was not trying to be a fire verses album, although it has fire verses on it. Something like that flow switch would be a little jarring on that album. Although he does have,
And yeah, they're doing different things for sure. I just thought Gibbs was just rapping his ass off on this whole album.
This is the precursor to the Gibbs that we know now that can just on a dime just tear a fucking beat to shreds.
Right.
National Anthem Fuck the World was like that first moment where I really realized this dude is fucking serious.
Yeah, that song is fucking crazy. Also, I think to your point, Class, like I think on Midwest, or Patrick made the point actually about it not trying to be like a quote unquote like fire versus bro, like bar son album. I don't think Gibbs has ever been focused on just that element. Like even in his early stuff when some of his hooks wouldn't land all the time, he was always like a guy who spent like time on his hooks and like was about creating songs. And I think the thing that I like I like the album. Like it's still good like everything else Gibbs has put out. But I think what I like about the EP so much is it took most of the best cuts from the album and Oil Money and just put them together. And I think that's what I like about it.
To your point, Caleb, I would say that the whole thing about Songcraft is that's why he worked with dudes like Bun and Devin right out the gate. And what they saw in him was that those are people who they could spit like motherfuckers. And people will say Devin can't. Fuck those people. Devin's a fucking top 20 rapper, I would say. But for his style, like Devin doesn't need to go out there and do fucking triple time shit. Like that's just not his lane, period. But there are people who make songs that stick with you forever. And like Bung with UGK, like that discography is airtight. And the Pimp C influence that was all over Midwest Box Frame. Like that's what, and I feel like that's what was why Freddie and Madlib eventually down the road, and this is going to go counter to my whole thesis for the episode, but that's why they made such a great match, I feel like, is that Madlib appealed to the rapper sensibilities in Freddie, but Freddie brought out the songwriting sensibilities in Madlib, which were there in Madlib if you looked at stuff like the George Animal Dro project and stuff he's done all over his catalog and scattered things, but they just complement each other so perfectly.
Right, and I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying, and I don't think that he's like a lyrical miracle rapper. Like, I hate that kind of rap as much as anyone. There's just so many performances on this where like my jaw dropped, and I was just like, damn.
I mean, rep to the fullest too. That's like, think about that. The way he flows on that, it's hard, but it's not. Again, it's not like, to go back to somebody we were talking about earlier, Meek Mill hard, where Meek has poppy songs and Meek has songs where he's just like, yeah, Like, all right, dude, we get it. And there's like a hard style of rapping, and like fucking hell, Rel used to do this to talk about Dipset, who clearly Freddie Gibbs was a fan of. If you've ever listened to his very first mixtape, you know Freddie Gibbs liked him some Dipset. But like he has a way of rapping that's hard but appealing, where you can tell that he's going at a track with emotion and focus, but he still has that melodic quality to it. And that's the Bun, that's the Devin, that's the Pimp.
Yeah, and Gibbs' influences also, like with these, you can, when you listen to Rock Bottom, you can hear the UGK influence, but also you can hear him coming into his own as a songwriter. Like, if you've ever been down and out, Rock Bottom is just like perfect song.
I would say it's just as good as the Eminem song, which is one of the few Eminem songs that has not been tainted by how garbage Eminem has been for the past 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about Rock Bottom to me is I honestly think he saved the best beat and the best chorus on the album just for Bun B.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's definitely the best hook.
And yeah, it's such a simple hook. It's such a simple sentiment that I'm going in circles, man. I'm going in circles, man. But who can't fucking relate? Who can't relate? Woo!
Yeah, that song is way more impactful about like struggle and mental health than anything Logic will ever do.
Egg fucking exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't have to grandstand about it or prostitute something like suicide. It's just talking about like everyday relatable struggles when you feel like giving up. And it doesn't have, yeah. Exactly.
And who else better to hear that from Freddie Gibbs? Like, you know, look, I was gonna say no shade to Logic, but honestly, no shade to Logic. Fuck
fucking
Logic.
shade to Logic. That dude talks about that song every time he gets a chance, about how it got him blowjobs and 7-figure paychecks. Other people's misery got you a blowjob.
Yeah, no, fuck Logic. Logic has not been through the shit that Freddie Gibbs has. Yeah, like Gibbs, like you know exactly where Gibbs is from. One of the most impoverished areas in the country, historically torn apart by violence and systematic oppression, and like this is what one of the great rappers of this generation and all time, in my opinion, if we're gonna go there, but is from. And so Gibbs has been at rock bottom. We know that. We can hear that, and he doesn't need to tell us that. It's just it's common sense.
Yeah, but anyway, if you're coming to Gibbs from a new listener's perspective, I would say go with the EP. Although once you've developed an appreciation for his style, the whole mixtape is worth hearing. It just does get a little exhausting, and skip "Pussy So Amazing." Like, just skip it. It's not worth your time.
Yeah, so we want to move on to Cold Day in Hell.
Yeah, Cold Day in Hell, which, if I recall, this was supposed to be his studio album, and this is right after he signed with Corporate Thugs with Jeezy, but fuckery happened, which will be a recurring theme with the Freddie Gibbs signs with Young Jeezy situation. First of all, incredible cover art. I love this cover art.
Incredible cover art. A lot going on in the cover art.
There's a lot to support the Jeezy theory here, in that you have 2 Jeezy songs on it, one bonus, one that I felt like was supposed to be a single. I believe Rob Mia was supposed to be was definitely a single. That was a street single. We have a sequel to PSA, which everybody wanted, and
which is almost worse.
Yeah, I actually would say it is worse. I would say that until this motherfucker shows up again on the next mixtape, this hook slinging Sebastian guy, who may or may not be the Sebastian from Ghostface Killah's, not BFK, GFK's Malcolm. Fucking worst song in Gibbs' discography so far. Fucking hate that shit. And it's also in the worst point. It's like in the dead middle of the album too.
Right after one of the best songs on the album.
Exactly, and right before like the smoking song too. And then the Juicy song, like, it kills the fucking momentum. Like, that actually gave me a really negative appreciation on this album on first listen. Like, yeah, it really... Also, Dom Kennedy, fuck out of here. Like, I'm just talking about shit I didn't like on first listen that gave me a negative impression. Because this was supposed to be a studio album that I actually would have gone and paid for, but it came out as a mixtape. The rollout for this was kind of fucked up. But, in retrospect, it's on the lower end of Gibbs' catalog, but still really fucking good. The lower end of Gibbs' catalog is still really fucking good.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about Gibbs, is that his floor is so high.
His floor is most rappers' ceilings.
Yeah,
But,
exactly. Like I still have this at 4 stars, and I would take a couple tracks out. But for the most part, out of 17, it's super consistent. The 2 Chainz song is funny to hear 2 Chainz in 2011. The 187 Proof, we all know that song. Like Justice League, I mean, come on. The BJ song to kick it off is also good. And
Freeway has the best feature verse on this album.
yeah, that was my next point. I think the Freeway track is one of my 2 or 3 favorite tracks on the mixtape.
yeah.
When are you gonna hear a Freeway verse like that?
Dude, Brit produced Rob Mia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, I didn't know Cardo did My Homeboy's Girlfriend, so I'm really done with the producer stuff today, apparently.
I mean, obviously, Justice League producing 187 Proof is the big, like, everybody knows that because it's, like, almost sarcastic that he did that to Ross. But I'm going to pay your favorite producers to make a Lex Luger beat.
Yeah, when I was listening to this, it definitely stood out. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I can definitely hear the Jeezy album here, but I think a lot of these beats are just like knockoff Jeezy and like knockoff Teflon Don beats. Like, I don't think this album really holds up that well, other than Gibbs. The production I thought was like really Atlanta trap in 2010.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd be lying if I said I really came back to it too much, but whenever I listen to it, I enjoy it. But I haven't listened to it in quite a long time. And it's not the Gibbs that we know now, for sure. I think he's bidding on this album, and he'd hate to hear that, and I hope he never hears that.
It has some great songs, though.
I mean,
Proof, Rob Me. Choose and Fuse with Jeezy is great. Band is great. My Homie's Girlfriend is great. Natural High is great. The Juicy song is great. The Chain song is funny, like he said. I remember the last 2 songs being cool, too. But again, it's like a template album. Like, the last 2 songs are the sad songs about, like, dudes who die. Like, and then Jeezy shows up again at the end. And there's, like, a lot of very trappy, of the time production that already was kind of sounding a little stale.
Yeah, I mean, even 187, like, he goes off, but that sounds exactly like the John beat to me.
Oh, no, I think that was on purpose. That was on purpose. He was trying to sound like go over a Ross beat to diss Ross.
Yeah, which is hilarious, but I don't know if the song is that good.
I don't know. It's interesting because when I listen to a lot of early Gibbs, even now I can kind of take myself out of that and view it through that lens. And I think that's something as rap fans and fans of music, like, we do anyway, because the greatest albums like will hold up, whatever. Obviously, we know that. But I think an album like this, or an album like the last album we talked about, like, those beats aren't necessarily impressive for 2020, but in 2010, I still think for the most part these are good beats, and it's just like a great mixtape that came out this year, and then in 10 years we're like, oh, is this mixtape still great? So I think this mixtape's still really good. I don't listen to it as much as the next 2 projects we're going to talk about, but I think it's still strong, and I think Gibbs. I think this is an important tape for Gibbs.
Yeah, and another point I was thinking is, honestly, I think it's lyrically better than some of the stuff before it.
Yeah,
I think there are a lot of good concepts on here.
I think his rapping is really strong on this. Like what you said earlier, that was the biggest takeaway.
Well, I feel like he was hired to be Jeezy's attack dog, and that's what he does on this. He proves himself as a hard-body lyricist over and over and over. Like, no matter what beat you give him, he's going to make it sound good and hard based on what he's doing over it. No matter what feature you give him, he's going to make them sound credible based upon what he does in the verses.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Gibbs here really is showing the, like, conflict he has with the life that he lives. I mean, I just wanted to point out some lyrics on Anything to Survive when he's like, and my homie sister a geeker, should I be serving her? Like, he knows that what he's doing is because he has to do it, but he's not like condoning it, you know? He's not like propping up the gangster rap.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that points out to points forward to one of my favorite lyrics on Thuggin', where it's like he points out that he sold something to Was that where he says he sold it to her, but she probably sucked his dick for it?
Yeah. That is thuggin'. And then he talked about, he follows it up with like the I'm living on borrowed time or expiration date. I passed it. So,
Damn, we should say that, bro.
Yeah. that should be the intro song.
Okay, shout out to our intro song. By the way, completely unforced transition there that I didn't force in at all. Shout out to our new intro song that Kittenpuke put in. That's actually our old intro song, but that comes from a June classic off the Billy Woods album. Today I Wrote Nothing, the song Borrowed Time. That's the outro. Be cool if we had an outro too.
Shout out to KP as always.
Yeah,
I guess BFK, because I feel like we talked about this.
Fuck Dom Kennedy once again. Every album Dom Kennedy shows up on, he sucks. Does the same fucking flow. Same thing here. Fuck that guy. BFK. I love his album. I love his mixtape.
I've listened to this a couple times in the last few days because I think out of all the early Gibbs, I was the most rusty on this one. Maybe besides like Miseducation, but I didn't go back and listen to that. But this one I listened to a lot, and I was like, you talk about beats holding up. The beats here really knock. And I mean, I was using a good speaker, so maybe like that was part of it, but the beats on this really knock. I mean, the title track, of course.
A lot of them are by nobodies.
Yeah, they're not like big name. I'm looking at the producers right now, and there's a lot of people. I mean, the Cook and Soul, of course.
Well, yeah. But...
And there's DJ Dahi on here, but there's not a lot of household names by any means.
Every track on here except for, well, I'm not crazy about Go For It with Jeezy, but it's fine. It's whatever. I mean, at this point, Jeezy was going to be on a track or two, and 17 more than makes up for it.
Yeah.
17 is the best song they've ever done together. Middle of the Night this replaces the PSA song, which is the worst song Gibbs had done.
Yeah.
Yep.
That song is bad.
It's not good.
After he does a collab with Zero.
Right.
They're just about the influences.
Right. And it's a great and that comes after the run of Crazy, Stay Down, and the Zero song. And those are three great songs. The track with Dana Williams, he always kills it with Dana. They always make a great pairing. I think this is their first one, right?
No, they did one. They did one before. Well, that doesn't really help. They did one before or after. Was the one after on the Static album, or was it on? The fuck was it one on? Yeah, I think this is their first one. They did one on either the Static album or.
The only other one I can see is they have one on Shadow of a Doubt.
Shadow of a Doubt. Okay.
Yeah. Well, they have one on Pronto too.
Oh, was that Pronto? Oh.
Yeah, they've got
Diamonds.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so they're always a great pairing together. And
Currency and Gibbs, they're always amazing together. That's probably their worst song together, and it's still good. Like I love
the outro on this song. I was listening to the song last night, and I remember like the outro is so triumphant.
The first three songs on this mixtape are fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, the title track to me is probably the best track.
Just the way it comes is so goddamn hard. It stomps out. Like, it's probably the hardest thing I'd ever heard from him up to this point.
The way that like the sub bass on that beat, and the way he just in the verses switches up the flow is crazy. Like in the middle of each verse, and then each time he does like the flow switch, like when he'll go to like the double time, he'll end the double time and it will lead right into the hook.
I can't quote my favorite lines from the song at all on the show.
No, I can just move my hand in different motions as he's rapping. That's all I can do. Kush Cloud is one.
Oh my god, Kush Cloud is like, that's up there. That song and Ashtray off of the Smoke Dizza Harry Fraud album, where like that was on my smoking mix for like 2 years straight. Those were the best smoking songs.
Kush Cloud's great.
Yeah, that's it. And the weirdest part about that song is it's produced by someone who has done like literally no other songs.
I'm telling you, there are a lot of nobodies on this album who produced like fucking flames.
it's so funny hearing Space Ghost Perp on a Freddie Gibbs
Of all people.
of all people. Like, and if you like, Space Ghost Perp that year made albums that sounded nothing like this. And it's so funny hearing him, like, this is still when he was like mainstream adjacent and they were trying to like make him a thing. And I don't know if he just hopped on Gibbs because he fucked with Gibbs that much, or it was just like a CTE thing, but I don't know.
I don't know. Why does Space Ghost Perp do anything?
It's a great question. We should have.
I mean, drugs is an answer for a lot of it, and bipolar is an answer for a lot of it. I mean, that should be the title of our space. Look at a Space Ghost Perp episode. But I'm gonna see what else Wayne Blaze has done in his career. He's been on Baby D's album. We all know Baby D. Rockette, Trey the Truth, Freddie Gibbs, and Hit Screwface. Shout out Wayne Blaze. You made the worst Freddie Gibbs song up to this point. And you're making the reason why.
Probably the worst Trey the Truth song, too.
I'm sure. Like, we can say that sight unseen. Wayne Blaze.
Shout out to Trey the Truth for just being an A+ rapper and human.
Institution, one of the best voices in rap history.
Doing a lot of stuff going on with the protests and helping communities out. Always a legend.
By the way, just so you know, if your relative's a cop, he's still an asshole too. If your uncle's a cop, he's still an asshole. If your dad's a cop, he's still an asshole too. If you're a cop, turn off this podcast and then quit your job, and then you can listen to this podcast again.
Right. The sensible thing to do is resign.
So just getting it out there. I don't think we really need to make these public service announcements since only people in the Discord listen to this show. But just saying. And the off chance you're a cop and you listen to this show, stop, quit your job, and then you can continue listening to this. If you're a cop and you listen to this show, you're listening to Freddie Gibbs. What do you think he thinks about you? Just saying.
Also, Gibbs Gibbs does the Dead Presidents beat on My Nigerian.
Is that the most abused beat in rap history?
It's gotta be.
The piano loop is so nice, though. You have to.
Or 93 Till Infinity, which he also did on Miseducation.
He did that justice, though, and I wouldn't have expected that.
Oh, he did, for sure.
And that was probably the first real sign that he could go over boom bap shit. I mean, because people were really surprised when Thuggin' dropped. Like, I was surprised, honestly. And we all thought it was going to be a one-off, too. Like, when Shame dropped, like, I'll get into it. I don't want to spoil everything. But Money Clothes Hose sounds like it's going to be stupid, but it's really hot. It's not as hot as the first 3 songs and the 5th song, or the 6th song. But it doesn't ruin the flow. It's the weakest song in the initial run, but it's still good.
Yeah, the Kurt Cobain song isn't that good, though.
He has a low bar. I like Pharrell's goofy ass hook that's not credited on RYM.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
He's on a diet.
I think like I said, the J-Rock song is really good. Jadakiss sounds great on it.
Is that their only?
But I don't know why. Stay Down's great. Box Train Cadillac's great. The Zero track. We all know Middle for the Night sucks. But the album ends really strong too. I don't need the bonus track. I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, I think that's the only time Gibbs went over Mustard. It's fine. I mean, he can do it. Doesn't necessarily mean I want to hear him do it. Like, it felt like a concession that felt like a Jeezy concession. Like, I got a Mustard beat. You know, this might pop. Do it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's an 18-track album, and 17. Let's take out the bonus. It's a 17-track album, and the only songs I don't listen to are like 3 songs, I think. So I'm pretty.
My points about Dom Kennedy before carry over to here. I won't do it again, but yeah, he does the same thing.
The Dom Kennedy song, the the one, obviously, Middle of the Night, and the Kurt Cobain song. Those are the songs that I will not play. But the rest, I think, is really good. And the point about nobody's making great beats. Great mixtape. Big fan of it. It holds up. The beats hold up. They're 2012, but they hold up.
Yeah, I would agree. You got anything for this class, or do we move on to the Static EP?
I'm ready.
Right. Static EP, Lord giveth, Lord taketh away. This was one I listened to, actually did my homework on real quick, because I listened to something Gibbs did with Static on his best album, What Goes Around, Carry On, him and Joey Badass, which is amazing. This is not amazing, mainly because there's a lot of features on this that just take up space, which is a problem Static has. I've called him the backpacked DJ Khaled, because he just packs his fucking tracks full of, like, everything's a posse cut, doesn't need to be. But this is... Okay, so this motherfucker on RYM has this gimmick where he's like, oh, I took you Lucid out of the Arm & Hammer albums. And I'm like, okay, what's next? Are you going to take Killer Mike off Run the Jewels? Guess what was in my this morning? This motherfucker took Killer Mike off RTJ4.
What?
So, yeah, and so I asked him if he does request, could he take Corner Boy P off Smoking Partners? He hasn't done that yet, so he's not doing anything useful. But if he's taking requests and he's listening to this podcast, take everybody else except Freddie Gibbs off the Static EP too, because then it'd be really good.
I think your review sums this up perfectly at the end when you said this is like a good EP and it's proof that Gibbs can transcend any obstacles in front of him, make a release compelling solely on the strength of his raps and personality. Like the fact that he can do all that is like with these fucking features. And the amount of them on every song.
I'm sure Shred the Truth was better than I gave him credit for in 2011, but.
Oh yeah, for sure. I haven't gone back and listened to this. Also, R.I.P. Fred the Godson.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
So,
Yeah, I totally forgot about this week when I was trying to get through all this stuff. So I haven't really listened to this since it came out.
I remember thinking it was like a solid EP, and Gibbs was really good on it. I remember the title track being the best song also.
Of course, I would listen to the one nobody else listened to. It was only because I heard the fucking Carry On song just by pure chance. I was like, oh, maybe the EP is better than I remember it. Not really just because of all the features, but Gibbs does really well over these beats. Again, it's a predictor of how well he does over boom bap stuff. Although the Mad Lib albums aren't purely boom bap. Again, people who say that are being reductive, which we'll get to when we get to the Mad Lib albums. By the way, we're just going to get to the Mad Lib albums. We're not going to do the EPs as they came out. But just speaking as somebody who was around at the time, we originally thought Thuggin' came out in 2011 was going to be a one-off. Then Shame came out in 2012, and it was like, okay, they did another one. And then Deeper in 2013 was like, okay, are they going to do an album or not? So that's kind of how that was. They were all amazing and like perfect songs. We'll get to that when we get to the albums. But that's kind of where Gibbs' career was, because it seems like judging by our chronology, he wasn't really dropping shit like at a prolific rate, but those did come out every year. So that's kind of where his career trajectory was. Meanwhile, he was signed to Jeezy, and they weren't really putting out studio albums like that, which, if you listen to his first studio album, he has something to say about that. Evil Seeds Grow Naturally. He has a friend.
Yeah.
His name is Lil Sody.
Yes.
So speaking of cutting stuff, I've cut all the Lil Sody stuff off of this album.
I'm just going to say right now that this album is underrated on RYM, and I feel like it's only underrated because of Sody. I feel like that's... I mean, this album is 20 songs, and it's pretty consistent.
I mean, I can go on and on about this album. I mean, maybe I'm about to overrate it. I've listened to this album so many times. It's probably my favorite Gibbs album still, even if I'm not going to say it's his best.
Really? I thought my fucking Alfredo saying his best project was going to be the hottest.
No,
take.
That was not the hottest take. I had this album in my car probably for a year and a half. I mean, I know this album inside and out. I think this album's incredible, short of all the Big Kill and G Wiz features that are just terrible. But I mean, I think Gibbs just this is probably my favorite performance of his, front to back. I mean, I think he just killed this album.
What I'll say about this album is you can hear years of frustration of being promised something and having it taken away from you, of being manipulated. You can hear that frustration being vented on every single song. And you can hear, but his songcraft hasn't left him, because I will point out the Real G Money, Eastside Moonwalker, Freddie Soprano. I'll put those against anything, any rap nerd, any music nerd, any RYM nerd wants to put up from me on Pinata, Bandana, any of those. Those songs are just as good. And the Spice One song, too.
Yeah, I mean,
Eastside
Walker is incredible.
Yeah, and the BJ song is incredible, too. Like, that's also, that took me a while to come to that song, too. I feel like people got overwhelmed. First of all, yeah, the Sodi interludes needed to be interludes. I mean, it's already 75 minutes. Just fucking make it, like, 30 tracks. Just put Sodi on other tracks. Like, come on. So, and yeah, fucking the Weed Carrier stuff on this mostly sucks.
Yeah.
It's hard to...
I mean, I talked about the production on the last couple albums sounding kind of like knockoffs of his contemporaries, but the production on this album is fire to me. I mean, 100,000 beat is crazy. The Real G Money beat is crazy. The Lay It Down beat is crazy.
Yeah, when the real drums come out, when the drums come on the Real G Money, that is like from a G to a kilo, from a meal to a motherfucking, like, that is one of the hypest moments in music ever, period. That is up there with Flocka on, like, fucking Hard in the Paint shit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Stomps that shit. It's amazing.
And, I mean, he doesn't even need the overly technical rap on this. I mean, I think album is totally him doing UGK again. I mean, he does so many slow, like, melodic flows on this. I mean, even we're talking about 9mm. I love that song. I love the chorus on Have You Seen Her? I love the chorus on 10 Packs of Backwoods. I think his best choruses are on this album, too.
He has some underrated choruses on this album, for sure. And, yeah, he's going back to a lot of the melodic flows, but he's alternating them with, like, really aggressive, hard deliveries. And the lyrical content is just nonstop aggression. Like, the frustration is just coming out. And
the run...
album more just talking about it than I did listening to it more recently. So, yeah, I've appreciated it more since I first heard it. Because when I first heard it, I was hoping for the album that was coming out of the Madlib sessions and the best songs from the Jeezy sessions. That's not what this is. This is an album just venting aggression, and he lets Sodi say what he can't say, and his actual feelings come out in the way he raps about nameless people. But we know who those people are because we listen to Real. Also,
the run from Lay It Down to Fame is fucking incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Fame is a testament to how well he raps when he's on with legends.
Also, that Spice One feature is awesome, and Daz Dillinger has never been more charismatic. And speaking of charisma, Problem has never been more charismatic than on 187.
Yeah, it's the best Problem feature I've ever heard.
That 187 song slaps so hard, to your point, Class. Like, the production on this.
Oh.
Yeah, like, that definitely holds up. Have You Seen Her? Amazing song. Like,
I think
Willie B, with my favorite Willie B beat, I think, on Lay It Down. One of them, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can extend that to Paper. I think Paper's amazing.
I love Paper. In the last minute and a half, I don't need. I'll give you 30 seconds of Sodi shit talking, but I don't need 2 minutes of him shit talking.
Yeah, and then you get to the Color Purple. That's one of the only songs that I skip, to be honest.
What do you think of? Certified Live, I think, is one of the meanest songs on the album too.
J-Rock kills that song.
Yeah. Kills that song. Nodima's underrating it in his review. Nodima, you're underrating that song.
The album should end one track sooner. Nothing can follow Freddie Soprano. Certainly not Big Kill.
Although I do like his verse on Murder Them. But yeah, the song's not needed.
Freddie Soprano is one of the best Gibbs songs, period.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like it's just kind of like, okay, I'm done with all the trap stuff? Like, it feels like that's his, like, transition into Madlib songs to me.
Well, this was during the sessions, obviously, like Patrick pointed out. So his rapping, and we know what his rapping is on Pinata. Like we know what that is. So I feel like this is an elite rapping performance. The only difference between this and Pinata is this has some weed carrier shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
for
I mean
sure.
the beats are different, so you know, music nerds on RYM are gonna value it less. But the rapping performance on this is still elite. The hooks are still elite for the most part. The
I mean,
beat.
it doesn't have like elite rappers like Absol on Lakers on it.
I like that verse, but anyway.
Replace Absol with Big Kill.
It'd be better. It'd be better.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna fight about. That's what the beef on this episode is gonna be about. Fucking you like Absol on Lakers?
No, we'll wait till we get there.
I like Absol on Lakers. I don't like Absol, but I like Absol on Lakers.
I mean, I like Absol at points. Like he's had some incredible songs, but he is the worst part of Pinata.
I mean, that's fair.
The part when he's like, and
I don't
you go there. Like,
so don't go there.
Yeah, that part is awful.
That is the 2015 rappers are hard to find, like a remote.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If it was boring, I would agree with you guys. But it's not boring. It's kind of funny to me. Like that's the whole argument of like, if you're gonna be bad, be funny about it, and don't be like. It's the same thing with my argument for I'm upset. I'm upset's terrible, but it's
Okay, I see your argument there because I still laugh and I just heard, when I mention it, I just hear I got a lot of blood and it's cold, and that just makes me laugh.
The way he says it, like got a lot of blood and it's cold. You just have to, and I love the beat to that song. So you just
he's upset, man. He's so upset.
And also, it's like a meme now. Like I'm upset it's like a viral meme. Like it's.
I think if the fucking Eminem "I'm the Way I Am" video came out in 2020, it would be a meme because he's like literally at a restaurant, like somebody asked him for an autograph, and he's like throwing plates around and shit. It's like you are the most immature person. Like this is not acceptable behavior. That should be a meme. Like that video needs to go viral. Like, but then again, it's Eminem. Who cares? But still.
Yeah. Last things I'll say about this album: "Dope in My Styrofoam" is the best West Coast song Gibbs ever did. Sounds like a complete West Coast song.
Yeah.
That's true. He's done a bunch of them. They're all really good.
On 9mm, when he's doing the KRS-One interpolation, love that song. When he does the part and he's like, "This life, it's so strange. Put your family in the trunk, man. It's a very cold game." That's the scariest thing I've ever heard from Gibbs.
Yes. Yo. That's one of the things about Gibbs is like the way he like does the little melodic flow switches. Like it feels so unforced and just
I mean, that's part of why Gibbs has some of the best flows ever in the history of rap. Like, and I think people even before he made the critically acclaimed, like the really.
First of all, I'm bringing ESGN up to a 4 now on RYM. At least I'm doing that much. But
Patrick, you got to do that.
I had it at a 7. I can't believe I still had it at a 7. It's obviously an 8. So, but
yeah, I mean,
you got to do that for BFK too, Patrick. But anyway,
what the fuck? I had BFK at a 7. That's bad. I mean, it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, to people listening, if there's anything I get across this whole time, if you like UGK and 8Ball and MJG or Goody Mob, you need to listen to this album.
Yeah, and really Gibbs in his early 2010 days period, I think. Like he just the influence, as we've talked about at length, is so huge from those artists. And UGK, Goody Mob, like those are 8Ball, MJG, those are some of my favorite artists in rap. So it's a natural progression, and I really like your take, Class, on how well this album holds up, because I was playing it yesterday, and I actually, even though it's a long album, I spun it twice all the way through because I was enjoying it so much again. So great album.
Yeah,
I think it's a testament to how good this album is that you can spin it twice. That it's so much of, well, it feels like it's so much of the same aggressive shit, but he really does switch moods. He switches regions, and that's another thing about Gibbs, is that he has a lot of regional influences, but he doesn't feel like he's just like swag Draculaing like Game or Drake or somebody. It's like, okay, now I'm into Houston, so I'm gonna take a Houston thing, or now I'm into the Bay, so I'm gonna take a Bay thing. Like he feels really like he makes it feel organic. When he has a Spice One feature, it feels different than when he has a Zero feature.
For sure.
It feels like he is able to convey this sincerity within both. It doesn't feel cynical.
Yeah, he like we talked about this earlier, but like Gibbs is equally just a massive rap nerd, but it's not in a way that's like, how do you do fellow kids Drake way. It's like I'm, not only am I genuinely influenced by this, I'm going to make these songs and I'm going to get people from these regions on these songs that I, listen to and idolize so much, and I'm going to pay debt to each of these scenes in like a genuine like way and express that through, and you can hear it in his melodicism, like I'm making up that word like you guys said. And I think ESGN, and to a lesser extent some stuff that comes later, is a direct nod, like when he does like the Ice-T breakdown on Fetty, like just a lot of subtle nods that you might not catch the first time.